Blackdragon. If you're looking to get laid, please press 1. If you're looking to establish an open relationship, please press 2. If you're trying to deprogram yourself of false societal conditioning, please press 3. If you're getting monogamous with a woman because I don't understand, and she's not like the rest and you know what you're doing, please press 4. Crisis counselors are standing by. If you're a woman who expects several dinner dates before having sex, please hang up and call someone else. Have a nice day. I know I will.
Welcome to the first Blackdragon podcast, perhaps the last Blackdragon podcast. I honestly don't know if I'm going to keep doing this or not. This is more of a test than anything else, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But for this first podcast, and possibly last podcast, I wanted the topic to be something very global, something that would apply to anyone regardless of where you were or are in your life in terms of your evolution or your relationships or your skills. And I've got two of them. One of them is coming up with very clear and specific objectives. And another one is a concept called zero-based thinking. But before we get into that, I want to cover a few business items first, a few things to kind of go over. I wanted to kind of give an overview of what I'm doing with this Blackdragon endeavor, and I guess this is the best place to do it, or at least as good as any other place. The business model that I'm following for this Blackdragon business is one that is completely content-driven. And when I say content-driven, I'm talking about free content. We have things like a blog, and we have things like forums, and we have free ebooks, and we have websites, and we have a whole bunch of stuff that is, at least in my opinion, very high-quality free content. And if the content of this stuff is good enough, then some of you will be ethically induced to purchase the even higher quality paid content. And that's how this business works. And I know that if my free content sucks, then you're probably not going to buy anything, and I'm probably not going to make any money, and no one has any fun. So my effort is to make sure that the free content is very, very good. So we've got a number of things. We've got the blog, blackdragon-blog.com. We've got the forums, fasterseduction.com. We've got the website. We've got the downloadable ebooks, and now we've got this podcast. All of this activity is driven by the high-quality free content. I have never spent one penny on any paid advertising for the Blackdragon stuff, ever. You know what? Actually, that's not true. About, let's see, I don't know, a year and a half ago, I paid a guy, for 2 months to advertise certain keywords on a forum, and that was, like I said, a year and a half ago for about 2 months, so I did that. Other than that, I have not spent one penny on any advertising for any Blackdragon stuff. It's all free content driven. Now, at some point that will change, and at some point I'll be investing in some more actual real advertising for the Blackdragon stuff. But as of right now, April 2012, I haven't spent a dime. It's all content driven. So, that brings us to this podcast. The way this podcast works is, if I put up this podcast on blackdragonsystem.com, and I see a noticeable difference in unique visitor counts, I see jumps in page views, sales goes up. If I see numbers go up, I check numbers about once a month, then I'll probably do more podcasts. And if I do this podcast and I put it up there and there's a little spike, but nothing much happens after that, then I probably won't do this podcast. It's very simple. Now, like I said, this is a business, and most of you have no problem with that concept. But there are a few of you out there who have a slight problem with that concept. A few of you out there with the opinion of, if someone is trying to make money off seduction, relationship, etc. information, then obviously they must be lying and they're full of shit and they can't be trusted, etc. So what I do to offset a lot of that is two things. One is everything I sell has a lifetime money-back guarantee, unconditional. If you buy anything from me, if at any point you decide you don't like it, you get your money back. That's the first thing. Second thing is, everything I make off the Blackdragon stuff, 5% of the gross margin goes to charity, and it goes every month. And one of my biggest financial goals, and I have many, is to get that 5% up to 10%. That would be kind of neat to actually have 10% of my income go to charity every month. Now, that's a lot of money. Think about how much money you make in a month, and take 10% of that, and picture that check being cut to some charity. It's kind of a lot of money. So at the moment, it's 5%. I'd like to get that to 10% at some point. But anyway, so between the guarantee and the charitable stuff, it offsets a lot of this, money is bad, capitalism is bad, business is bad stuff, I hope. Anyway. Now, just to be clear, it's also possible that I may decide these podcasts are just too much trouble, and I just may stop doing them. That's always a possibility. The reason is my primary objective in life, and I hope you have the same objective, is to be happy and to experience happiness as often and as consistently as possible. So I'm very wary about doing things that make me unhappy. When I was younger, I used to do all kinds of things that made me very unhappy for long, long stretches. But now that I'm older and wiser, no longer. Happiness, specifically consistent happiness, is my number one goal in life. And I could get into a big, long philosophical discussion with you about the fact that if you pursue long-term happiness, you will be a better person, you will give back more to the world, people will be happier around you. You don't have to worry about sacrificing yourself for the greater good. That happens automatically if you're a happy person and live a happy life. But I digress. That's a conversation for another time. The point is, happiness, specifically consistent and long-term happiness, is the primary objective. One of my long-term mentors, a man named Harry Brown, once said, "I have become ruthlessly intolerant of permanent irritants." And holy shit, I couldn't have said that better myself. Very good. So anyway, enough of that shit. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about two things, and they both interlock with each other. The first concept is your true primary objective when it comes to the women in your life. Or for some reason you are a woman listening to this podcast, the men in your life, but I'm going to gear this toward men as usual. I talk to a lot of guys. I talk to guys over Skype, over texts, over email, over the phone, in person. I talk to a lot of guys about female issues, as you might imagine. And one of the things I see all the time, I'll give you several examples. One is a guy will be on a first date from some chick he met online, and he'll say something like, "Well, we had a really great talk. It was really fun. She was really interesting and really neat." And I'll say, "What's the next step?" And he's like, "Well, I really don't know." And I'll say, "What happened on the date?" "Well, nothing really happened. We just talked." Or I will see, what's another example? Oh, I'll see this all the time. On the forums, I will see guys who do club game, which, by the way, I know absolutely nothing about, and I can give you no advice regarding that because I don't do it and never will. But these club game guys will make a post and they'll say something like, "Yeah, it was great. It was out until 4 in the morning. It was awesome, and didn't get any phone numbers, didn't kiss anybody, didn't get laid, but it was fun." Or, very common example, some guy will go on a few dates with a girl and have sex once or twice and then immediately fall in love in quotes, it'll really be NRE or one-itis, and he will be convinced he's met his soulmate and immediately get into this big relationship with her because he's scared to death she might leave. And in all of those examples, my question is the same. My question is, what is your primary objective here? Why are you doing what it is you're doing? What's the goal? A lot of times guys have a very nebulous answer to that question. They really can't give you specifics other than, "I want to get laid," or "I want to get a girlfriend," or whatever. It's very nebulous. Or sometimes, even worse, it's some amazing goal that can't ever happen, like, "I want to fuck 100 women in the next month." I'm exaggerating slightly, but not much. I've heard some pretty crazy goals. I would submit to you that most likely you're operating under a system where you really don't know what your goal is. You think you know what your goal is, but you really don't. You don't have something very clearly and specifically spelled out. Even goals, general goals like, "I want to get a girlfriend," that's not specific enough. Why? Because guess what? If your goal is to get a girlfriend, the first woman you fuck, you will try to make your girlfriend. I promise you that will happen if that's your goal. So that goal isn't good enough. Goals need to be very, very, very specific. One of the things that I do in my day job, don't you like that? Your day job? Don't quit your day job. One of the things I do in my day job is I work with people on goal setting and strategic planning. And believe me, if goals are unclear or nebulous, in a way, it's almost worse than having no goals at all. The reason for that is you'll start pursuing action in the complete wrong direction. You'll start putting in all kinds of time and effort for things that will not bring you results. Very, very bad. So if you have not sat down and thought this through in terms of your specific objectives, and you're operating under basic or nebulous objectives like, "I'm just going out there to have fun," or "I'm just going out there to say hi to people," or "I'm just going to go on lots of dates and see what happens," or "I want to get a girlfriend," or in terms of relationships, this is the worst one, "I'm going to do whatever is necessary to," quote, "make this work." God help me. These are all goals that A, will often lead you into the wrong direction, and B, will not help you accomplish anything of value. I mean, you might learn something along the way, but that's the best you're going to get. A lot of people focus on goals like this, and 5 years later they look back and go, "Holy shit, I haven't accomplished anything in 5 years." Except that you're 5 years older. I'm about to turn 40, so I happen to know a little something about getting older. God damn it. I was with somebody last week, a woman who was significantly younger than me, and I said, well, guess what? In a few weeks, you'll be fucking a 40-year-old man. And she said, that's hot. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call a type 2. But we're not talking about younger women here. We're talking about goal setting. God damn it, I keep digressing. So, having a specific primary objective on the woman's side of your life solves a lot of problems. Anytime I talk to a woman or go on a date or have sex or get into a relationship or get out of a relationship or next to a woman, I know exactly what I'm doing, and more importantly, I know why I'm doing it. Since I have a clearly defined objective, I always know if what I'm doing is congruent with that objective. In other words, I'm not wasting any time. I'm not screwing around. Everything I'm doing is bringing me further and further toward my goals because my goals are very, very specific and very well honed. For example, I'll just use myself as an example. My primary objective, in terms of the woman's side of my life, is to have sex whenever I want with hot women without ever having to promise monogamy or compromise anything in my life. Now, I hit that goal a long time ago, so my objective has changed slightly since then. But the reason I hit that goal is because for a long time, God, about 2 years or so, I focused 100% on that goal whenever I was communicating with women. I wasn't wishy-washy in any way about it. I knew exactly why I was there. If something didn't bring me closer to that goal, I stopped doing it. If it did, I did more of it and tried to improve upon it. And eventually I achieved the goal. I wasn't out there just floundering around. Today that lifestyle is second nature to me now, so it's not something I really think about a lot, and like I said, that because of that, my primary objective has changed slightly. But my point is, sex with hot women whenever I want, without having to hand over my balls, is still a standard that I've set for myself, and it's set in iron and will never change. It was a goal, it's become now a standard. We'll talk about that in a minute. But that's a great segue, because now we're going to talk about exactly how to do this. So let me describe to you exactly how to clarify a primary objective in your life in terms of dating, seduction, relationships, whatever. I call it the woman's side of your life. There's only 4 steps. It's very simple. It's not easy, but it is simple. Nothing of great value in life is easy the first time you try it, but it is very simple. All right. Step 1 is to establish a code of standards. This is 1 or 2 or maybe 3 things that you will not compromise on, that you will not waver on no matter what. You need to know exactly that which is so important to you that you're actually willing to lose women over it. It's that important. There can be many examples of this. I'll give you a few. Maybe it's a type of woman that you want or a type of woman you absolutely don't want. Maybe it's a specific type of lifestyle you want to have or you don't want to have. I know some guys who state very clearly to women that their career comes first, period, end of story. If they have a problem with it, they can leave. Tough shit, there's the door. I mean, that's fine. That's their standard. If your career is that important to you, great, go for it. I know other guys who will never compromise on time with their children. If it comes down between time with their kids or time with the gal, and the gal complains, guess who wins? The kids. They will literally dump the woman if she gives them trouble about time with their kids because that's their standard. Their standard is, I'm a father, I'm going to spend time with my kids. Let's see, what other examples have I seen? Oh, here's an easy one. I run into guys who are really hardcore into looks, and they just absolutely will not date women less than a 10 or a 9, or they will only date Asian chicks, or whatever. They have a very specific template of a woman that they want to be with, and they will not waver on it. That's fine. One of my standards, no surprise here, is that I won't do monogamy. I won't promise it. And I'll do just about anything else. If you're a woman in my life, I might love you, I might commit emotionally to you, I might live with you, I might take care of you financially, I might even have babies with you. But I don't do monogamy ever, period, ever, so don't even ask. I don't do it. It's part of my code of standards. There's no wavering on it. There's no negotiating about it. That's who I am. If she doesn't like it, that's fine. She needs to go be with somebody else. Now, there can be wavering on other things. I mean, you want to be a flexible person, but there are certain things, like I said, 2, 3 things that you will absolutely not waver on because those are your code of standards. Now, you may disagree with some or all of the examples I just had, but that's not the point. I'm just giving you examples. You need to come up with your own set of ironclad standards. 1 or 2 standards is probably enough. You could do 3 standards, but that's kind of pushing it. I definitely wouldn't go past 3. And the reason for that is if you go past 3 ironclad standards, you become Mr. Inflexible and Mr. Asshole, and it's going to be a little difficult for people to want to be a part of your life if you're that inflexible. So, 2 or 3 standards, maybe even 1, that's good enough. And let me reiterate one more point. because you have these ironclad standards, these 1, 2, or 3 standards, you want to be flexible on all of the areas outside of these standards. For example, if you've read my stuff, you know that when I date a woman, I let her do just about whatever the hell she wants. I don't sit down like most guys and go, okay, now that you're dating me, you're not allowed to do this, and you're not allowed to do that, and you can't talk to this guy, and you can't talk to this person on your Facebook page, and you can't do this, and you can't... No. I let women do whatever they want. I am actually one of the most flexible men in the universe when it comes to dating and relationships. And the reason for that is, again, because I have these very inflexible standards, 1 or 2 of them, I want to be flexible in everything else. You want to balance that out. I hope that makes sense. All right, so that's step 1. Come up with a personal code of standards that you will not waver on. Now, step 2. Step 2 is a concept, a very powerful concept, called zero-based thinking. Zero-based thinking is essentially the act of asking yourself this question. If I was not in this situation, knowing what I now know, would I get into it again? Let me say that again. If I was not in this situation, knowing what I now know, would I get into it again? So let's say you have a girlfriend that's really giving you a lot of drama and busting your balls. I'm sure you've never, ever had a girlfriend like this because you're a smart guy and you know exactly what you're doing. But let's just say, for argument's sake, you're in a relationship where you're getting a lot of crap from a woman. You would ask yourself, if she was not my girlfriend, knowing everything about her and me that I now know, would I make her my girlfriend again? What a dangerous question that is, isn't it? Zero-based thinking can be used in any area of your life. It can be used in relationships. It can be used in career, in business, in family relationships. You can apply this just about anything. If I was not now in this current situation, knowing what I now know, would I do this again? Let's say there's a particular seduction method that you've really wedded yourself to, and you're having trouble with it. You could ask, if I was not now using this method, knowing what I now know, would I get into doing this method again? This is a very, very powerful question, and there are times where you may get a very disturbing answer to this question. There are people who've asked this question in marriages. By the way, here's a fun fact. Women's Day magazine did a survey of 3,000 married women a few years back, and they asked the question, you know this is coming, if you were not now married to your husband, would you marry your husband again? 16%, 16% of the women said yes. The other 84% said some variation of maybe, or probably, or not sure, or I don't know, or no. 84%. As I've said many times, women love getting married. Women hate being married. But I digress yet again. We're talking about asking that question in relation to a situation that you are now in. If I was not now in this situation, knowing what I now know, would I get into this again? What you do here is you ask yourself that question and you force yourself to give yourself an honest answer. See, here's the problem with this question. You're going to try to bullshit yourself. You're going to try to say, oh yeah, I would do it again, because we don't want to admit to ourselves that we've been stupid and we've wasted our lives, or wasted the last 6 years, or the last 6 months, or whatever. So you're going to want to lie to yourself when you ask yourself this question. You're going to want to say, oh yeah. No. You can't have that. We can't do this. That's not going to help. You have to force yourself to be honest, and I'm not kidding. So you ask yourself that question. If your answer is any variation of the word no, then here is the second question you ask. Ready? Here it is. How can I get out of this situation, and how fast? If you're in a relationship that isn't working, and you've decided that if you were not already in this relationship, you wouldn't get into it in the beginning, you wouldn't get into it in the first place, the next question you ask is, how can I get out of this relationship, and how fast? Let's use some non-seduction, non-relationship examples. Let's say you're at a job. You ask yourself, if I currently did not have this job, knowing what I now know about this job, would I go into this job to begin with? Your answer is no. Your next question, the very next question you ask is, how do I get out of this job and how fast? Then boom, you start making some immediate changes. Zero-based thinking, that's all there is to it. Like I said, it's very simple, but it's not easy, but it is very, very powerful. I force myself to ask this question regarding the key areas of my life at least once a year. At least once a year. I sit down and I get very honest with myself and I say, okay, this business, this woman, this relationship, this situation, it could be anything. Knowing what I now know, would I get into this again to begin with? If the answer is no, guess what? I make a change and I get out. Because again, what is my goal? Long-term, consistent happiness. Believe me, if I'm in a situation that I've realized I wouldn't get into in the first place, I'm out of there and I'm on to something else that makes me happy and helps me accomplish my goals. All right, step 3. Step 3 is clarity, and clarity means simply define what your single primary objective is in the woman's side of your life. Just define exactly what you want. But do it in the context of step 1, which is your code of standards, and step 2, which is zero-based thinking. Make sure that your objective will not be something that will violate your standards, and make damn sure it's a reflection of what you want rather than an extension of your current condition. That's what zero-based thinking will help you with. For example, I know a few people, and I'm sure you know a few people, who are in really, really horrible marriages that are very bad and show no signs of improving ever for any reason. And I mean, it's bad for them, it's bad for their spouses, it's bad for the kids. But if you ask them what their objective is, it's to stay married to that person. Now, why is that? Because they haven't applied zero-based thinking. So that's the first part of this, is to make sure you're setting goals that you actually want and not goals that are extensions of what you're currently doing. Now, an equal component of this is to make sure that your goals are very specific, like I talked about at the beginning of this podcast. So I will give you a financial, personal success type example. Instead of saying something like, I want to make more money, which is not a goal, you would say something like, I make $75,000 a year, and this is true as of December 31st, 2012. You see the difference? You see how that's a real goal? You see how that has real power and real direction? So let's use some woman examples. Instead of saying something stupid like, I want to go get laid, your goal would be something like, I want to have sex with someone new sometime in the next 2 weeks, as an example. Instead of saying something very powerless and very reckless like, I want a girlfriend, you would say something like, I want a low-drama OLTR, and I don't want to get serious with her until we've been dating for at least 3 months. As an example. By the way, if I use any terms that are unusual or that you're unfamiliar with, please go to blackdragon-blog.com and click the glossary tab, and they'll all be there. So, lastly, the last component of this is that you want to make sure you're setting goals that are congruent with who you are as a person. For example, I am a Myers-Briggs personality type known as an INTJ. And so as an INTJ, I have very specific parameters and very specific things that I like and very specific things that I don't. And I have things that I'm good at, things that I'm terrible at. And so I have to make sure that my goals are congruent with that. By the way, you know what? I'm going to do something I wasn't planning on. You should know what your Myers-Briggs number is. Not number, it's actually 4 letters. I'm going to give you the web link for the Myers-Briggs test so you can take this test and know exactly what you are. It's kind of cool. Hang on a second. Let's see how fast I can find this fucking link. Let's see. It's over here. Hey, Tom, Dick, and Harry. Come on now. All right, here it is. So it's 2 websites. One website is the actual test, and the second website tells you what your results mean. So the first website I'm about to give you the link is a test of about 70 multiple choice questions. You go through when you're relaxed and you're alone, you just go through these questions, and it'll give you a 4-letter thing like ENFP or INTJ or whatever. And then you go to the second website I'll give you, and it'll tell you who you are and what you're good at, what you're not, and etc. So, the website, the first one where you take the test is www.humanmetrics.com, that's all one word, /CGI-win, W-I-N, /JTypes, that's the word types, T-Y-P-E-S, JTypes1, the numeral 1, .htm. So www.humanmetrics.com /CGI-win /JTypes1.htm. That's the test site. Now, the second site, once you take the test, is, hang on. Oh, this is much easier. All right, so the second site is www.personalitypage.com. That'll probably just work, but what I've got here is /home.html. But I have a feeling if you just type in personalitypage.com in your browser, you'll get it. So I would definitely, when you have about half an hour of some free time, sit down and go through that test and find out how you test out what type of personality style you are. There's a total of 16. These tests are very, very accurate. I took mine the first time when I was 24 years old, which is a long, long, long time ago. And I actually had it administered by a person, and I got my INTJ result. And then a few years ago, I went back to this website, took it again, and it was the exact same thing. I'm slow to change. So anyway, find out what you are and set a goal based on the congruency of who you are as a person. For example, if you're a very extroverted, outgoing, high-energy person, it's probably not a very good idea for you to set a goal that requires you to be sitting alone for long stretches of time. So that's it. That's step 3. Now we're on to step 4, and this is the easiest one of the 4 steps. Step 4 is to constantly and consistently remind yourself of your objective. Now, you're a human being. At least I hope you're a human being. You have a thing called a memory, and your memory sucks. Not only does your memory suck, we live very full and very complicated lives here in the 21st century, and if you don't consistently remind yourself of your objective, I promise you, slowly over time, life will consume you with other crap, and you're going to forget it. So don't tell me you have a great memory, because you don't. Even if your memory is fantastic, you're going to forget it, life will consume you, and you're not going to stay on course. So the best way to remind yourself about these things is to write them down and put it somewhere you'll see it every day. Now, I know you've heard this advice before. I am sure at some point in college or a few years back, you read some book on goal setting, and it said, write down your goals and carry it around your pocket or put it up on your bedroom wall or blah, 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 blah. And I'm sure you know, I'm sure you've heard this advice, but you're not doing it. You have to do it. You're going to have to put it up on your desk or put it by your bed or slap it up on the dashboard of your car. You know what? Right now as we're talking, actually I'm talking, I think you're listening. Right now as I speak, I am looking up at a banner. It's a big-ass banner up on my wall that shows my overriding life objective. It's in this big, giant banner. It's about 3 feet long by about a foot high. So do you ever think I forget about my primary objective in life? Do you ever think I waver on this, no matter how busy I get with this big-ass banner in my face? No. Hell no. And I don't want to, and that's good. Now, for some of you more creative types, you can actually put up pictures of what you want. That's totally fine. Matter of fact, that's preferable because the mind is an irrational organ and the mind is driven by visual images, and those are even better. So if you want to get a new boat or if you want to have sex with some hot chick who looks like Kim Kardashian, slap a big picture of Kim Kardashian up on your wall or whatever. I'm not saying you have to do that, but that would be a valid option. Now, some of you cool guys, some of you manly men types, some of you in-crowd kids are going to be thinking something like, well, that's gay. I don't want to put shit up on my wall. That's lame. Let me tell you something. I was making a 6-figure income by the time I was 27 years old with no college education, coming from a very strapped lower middle class family while spending a lot of time in my 20s doing a lot of shit wrong. Do you want to know how I did that? Back then, what I did is I put up a big thing on my bathroom mirror that said, I make $100,000 a year. And I had this up on my mirror when I was so poor, I remember going down to the grocery store with my $300 limit Visa card, student Visa card, that I had to lie to get because I didn't go to college, I wasn't a student. And I remember sitting there in the grocery store with the clerk running my card, crossing my fingers, hoping the card would go through so I could eat dinner that night. That's how poor I was, but yet when I went home to my little crappy apartment, I had a little thing up on my wall that said I make $100,000 a year. And man, I saw that thing every time I took a leak, every time I brushed my teeth, every time I took a shower, and I'll be honest, there were some days I hated that fucking thing. I wanted to rip that thing off the wall. But I left it up, and it stayed up, and by the time I was about 27, I think, 26, 27, I'll say 27, it became a reality. Now, my point is, during that time, I had some friends who would come over to my house, and they would see it up on my wall, and they go, dude, that's fucking gay. You're fucking gay. You're a fucking nerd. That happened. Now, I had some other friends who would look at it and go, oh, really? Wow, what are you doing? When are you making that money? It kind of gives you an idea of the different types of friends that I had. I talk a lot, or actually I write a lot, about a concept called outcome independence, which means you don't give a shit what other people think about you. So if you have a real problem with what your friends might say about anything that goes up on your wall, you have a very big problem to begin with. That has nothing to do with goals, and that's a whole different topic for another time. But if for some reason you just can't handle the reality that maybe some of your friends might call you a nerd or a fag or a dork or gay or whatever, then fine. What you do is you go down and get a big giant poster board down at the office supply store, and you put all your goals up on, all your goals, hope you don't have that many, goals, pictures, whatever, up on the poster board, and set the poster board up where you'll see it every day. And if some hot chick comes over and you're embarrassed, or one of your cool friends comes over, then you can grab that thing and throw it into the closet. And then you'll be okay, and your ego will be protected. However, the ideal solution is you slap that up on your wall so everybody can see it, and if they see it and don't like it, that's their fucking problem. That's outcome independence. That's what I would recommend. But if you're not quite there, I understand, fine, go to the poster board route, get a poster board, fold it into thirds so it actually kind of stands up on the floor or on your desk or something, and then go that route. Totally fine. So that's it. Those are the 4 steps. You do those 4 steps, and it will shave months, if not years, a very painful trial and error effort on your part to achieve what you want. Because A, your goals will be congruent with who you really are, and B, your actions will be congruent with your goals. You'll be miles and miles ahead just by following those 4 steps. By the way, when you sit down and you think through this stuff, you don't want to just think briefly and just come off the cuff and say, oh yeah, that's what I want, and write it down. You really need to sit down and give this stuff some thought. What I do when I go through these exercises is I will wait for a very nice weather day, which in my part of the world we don't get very many of. But I'll wait for a nice sunny warm day, and I will grab my laptop and I'll drive out to a park somewhere and I'll find a quiet spot where I can sit at a table. And I'll kick open the laptop and I will make sure I have no internet connection turned on. I will turn off my cell phone and I will just think. And I'll let my mind wander, and then I'll start analyzing and thinking, and I'll go through all this stuff, and I'll start writing things down and getting clarity. I really give myself some time to do this. I'll set aside an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to do this. I really want to, because, again, I really want to make sure that these goals are real, not just something that's coming out of the tip of my conscious mind, or something coming out of societal programming, or something coming out of something else. I want to make sure these goals are real. So I give myself the time, and I make myself do it. If you have any questions on any of these things, you are more than welcome to email me. The email address... Now, wait a minute, before I give you the email address. Do not expect my response very quickly. I do read all of my email, and I do respond to all my email, but sometimes it may take me a few days because responding to my email is not a high priority task. Therefore, it gets deferred until I have time. So it may take a few days for me to respond to you, but I will respond to you. So if you want to email me, you're more than welcome. The email address is theonlyblackdragon@gmail.com. Because I am the only black dragon, we all know that other dragons are all red. I'm a black dragon. I don't breathe fire, I breathe acid. If you know what that reference is to, you get a gold star. See, I'm really just a big nerd. By the way, I should point something else out. Just to clarify, again, this is as good a place to discuss this as any other place. As you can probably tell by my voice, I'm not black. A lot of people assume that because my name is Blackdragon, I'm some black guy, so I'm not black. I'm actually the pastiest, whitest white man you've seen in your life. Now, my son is black, so I don't know if that gives me any street cred to have a black son. When he was younger, he would come home from school, and I would say, hello, son, how was your day at school? And he'd say, yo, what's up, man? You white, man. Step off, motherfucker. And I'd say, ha, 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 good one, son. I'm just kidding. He doesn't talk like that. His father is me, and his mother is a blonde white woman. So instead of talking like that, he talks like, hello, my name is Blackdragon Jr. How are you today? But I digress yet again. The bottom line here is please, please take these 4 steps you've learned and put them into practice. You work very hard. You sacrifice a lot. I know you do because this economy's lame right now. You deserve to get the highest value return off your effort and your time and your life that you possibly can. So please take these concepts and put them into practice. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. I'm always here to help you out. Good luck. I'll talk to you next time. Maybe.